Later, they walked slowly towards the entrance of the hotel. Hugo, like a perfect gentleman, still wanted to take her back to her room. "Good night," she stuttered. "Good night, Callie." He placed a chaste kiss on her cheek and went up the hallway they had just walked, leaving her tottering in her doorway. At 7 a.m., the shrill beep of Callie's cell phone alarm tore her dreams away. She opened her eyes and didn't immediately recognize where she was. Callie spotted the Western notepad on the nightstand, which gave her the first hint. After a few seconds, the memories of the night before hit her, and she straightened suddenly. In the morning, reality resurfaces. The reality was that she had kissed one of her closest colleagues. They had snuggled like horny teens, and in the snow, too. First solution: avoid him for the rest of your life, at least until the end of my stay in the south of France. Let's say that during the day it was doable, but in the long term it was hardly possible. At some point, talking only by email or phone would become annoying. Second solution: barge into his office right away and put things straight. Ask him if he was considering a relationship with me, or if yesterday's kisses were just a slip, caused by a funny situation and a little too much red wine. This solution, however, required me to clarify one point. Did I want to have a relationship with him or not? She thought. So, Callie opted for the third solution, prompted by cowardice and the fear of being rejected. Do nothing. She let him take the first step, avoiding him a little bit to escape any possible embarrassing scenes. After returning home to change, Callie spoke with Danielle over a cup of coffee and a croissant. She was off that day, and Callie was in no hurry to go back to the hotel. Of course, her secret didn't last long. She told her about Hugo and their passionate exchange as soon as Danielle began to question Callie about her evening. "I don't believe it! You, Callie Cadell, have managed to seduce the most coveted bachelor in all of Luberon." "Of all Luberon, I don't think." "At the hotel, then. Christelle will be green with envy when she finds out." "Stop. I'll stop you right there. It's out of the question to tell anyone. You are and will be the only one who knows this story, and especially not Christelle. I don't want to find rat poison in my coffee." Danielle gave her a sullen little pout. "I don't know if I'm flattered that I'm the only one in your confidence, or disappointed not to be able to knock her down a couple of notches. I hate her with her nose in the air, and every time she swoons in front of Mr. Ricard, at least I want to wipe that smile off her face. I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I haven't seen him pay any attention to her, except professionally. He's a little weird at times, but I have to admit that physically, he's one hell of a package." Callie raised an eyebrow, a little taken aback by the way Danielle talked about her boss as if he were a piece of meat. "You know, we just kissed for a few minutes in the snow. We didn't plan to meet again. At least, I mean, other than at work." "And you're not afraid of it being weird?" she asked. "Perhaps," Callie said, her eyes vague. "In fact, at the time, I didn't consider it. To tell you the truth, I've been thinking mostly about your advice to enjoy life." "Hey, I'm happy to see that you're following my advice," she exclaimed. Their discussion was interrupted by a knock on the door. Vincent has brought his adorable daughter, Rose, to stay with Danielle as he leaves for work. She warmed up to Callie instantly. "You're still here," Danielle rebuked him. "You can go to work, go. Your daughter and I are going to have fun, don't worry. Go repair your cars, and you too, Callie, go to work and find your new devoted admirer." Callie gave her a killer look, reminding her that she wasn't supposed to talk about it. "Oops," she squeaked, putting a hand over her mouth. Callie grabbed her jacket, not without threatening Danielle with reprisals during a silent exchange. Vincent kissed his daughter, and they went to their respective cars. "Be careful on the road. There are still a lot of slippery spots," he advised. "Don't worry, I'm used to snowy roads," Callie replied. Honestly, she doubted he was worried about her. His remark was just a form of politeness. "This is what half of my customers have said who called me this morning to find out if I could repair their cars smashed into electric poles." "Well, at worst, I know a good mechanic," she joked, shrugging her shoulders. "I'd still rather you didn't call me," he yelled, getting into his car. He left right away, and she was stunned, not knowing if his last remark was to be taken literally or figuratively. The approaching spring hadn't, however, made her forget what had happened with Hugo, that infamous night in the snow. She had knowingly avoided him for a few days, using her best ninja techniques to disappear behind a door as soon as she heard his voice in a hallway, or else pretending to be interested in the insipid conversation of a colleague when he appeared in the cafeteria. Luckily, they didn't get a chance to be alone. When work brought them into the same room, it was for conference calls with headquarters or meetings, after which she disappeared as quickly as Lewis Hamilton on the Straits. Until the day he was on her doorstep. "Am I bothering you?" he asked. "Not at all," she replied. He settled down as if he seemed unwilling to give in to the comfort of the seat. He seemed nervous and even avoided her eyes a little. "Well, here you are," he started, placing his palms flat on his knees. "I wondered if you would be available on Saturday evening and if I could take you to dinner somewhere." He looked up at her with a hopeful look, and she was stunned to realize that this self-confident man at work was trying to invite her out like a teenager. "Would it be an invitation for a date?" she teased him. "It's supposed to be," he whispered. "I'm going at it like a fish, aren't I?" "Yes, actually," she said. "Saturday, 8 p.m., I'll pick you up." Callie's confirmation had restored his confidence. At least you had to believe that his weakness had only been temporary, but it had shown her that he was not as perfect as he seemed to be in his tailored suit, and that he too may not have known how to handle the situation after their last kiss. Callie has a date with Hugo. This left her dreamy for a good part of the afternoon, and she was as excited as a dust mite at a carpet shop about telling Danielle. The next evening, the doorbell rang, and as she got her purse from the kitchen chair, Danielle hurried to open the door. "Come in, Monsieur Ricard. Callie is almost ready." Fortunately, he broke the deadlock by answering, "Outside the hotel, I'm just Hugo." She nodded in approval, and he turned to Callie. From the expression on his face, Callie understood that he liked what he saw. "You look spectacular." Those few words were whispered so that she could be the only witness, which triggered a pleasant tingling up her spine. "Thank you," she replied. "Do you have your coat?" he asked, looking for it. He grabbed it from the chair and slipped it over her shoulders like the perfect gentleman he was. He definitely scored points. Callie had no idea where Hugo wanted to take her, but she was surprised at his choice, a small restaurant in the village of Lacoste. Hugo was at the same time considerate and interested, asking questions about her life and her tastes without ever going beyond the limits of polite curiosity. Back home, Hugo got out of his elegant sedan to take Callie to her door. They stopped at the door, and Callie pulled out her keys. "I had a great evening," she said, giving him a smile. "So did I," he replied. His face slowly leaned towards hers, and just as he was about to kiss her, she saw a figure lurking in the shadows just a few meters from them. Someone was spying on them. It didn't make sense. Callie quickly backed away, and Hugo's eyes widened in amazement, clearly not expecting this reaction from her. "Who are you?" she shouted in her mother tongue instinctively. Realizing that there was little chance that the person was English-speaking, she resumed in French. "Who are you? And what do you want?" They heard a loud crash, coupled with a string of curses. "Vincent? But what are you doing, hiding in the dark? It's not okay. You scared the hell out of me." She approached him and saw that he had his arms crossed over his chest and was brooding in anger. "Who's he?" he asked, pointing to Hugo with his chin. "Vincent, this is Hugo, the manager of the Bastide Western, and Hugo, I present to you Vincent, Danielle's cousin, who lives right next door." Hugo shook his hand and added, "I'm delighted to meet you." Hugo then approached her. "I think I'll leave you. It's already late. See you Monday at work?" "Oh, yes, of course. See you Monday." Callie was disappointed that he abandoned her like that, and that he didn't even wait for Vincent to go home, to say goodbye to her in a more intense way. He placed a nice kiss on her cheek and walked away towards his car. The next day, Callie decided to question Danielle. "Why does your cousin have such a short fuse with me? He's very sensitive with me. He doesn't have much patience." "Ah, I understand. You mean Vincent?" "Yes, of course," Callie replied, rolling her eyes. "Really? You think so? I think he likes you," she said, shrugging. "You think that he likes me? You didn't listen to anything I told you. I swear to you that, in my opinion, he can't wait for me to take a plane and return home. You're not the problem. The past few years have been a bit harsh for him, but I assure you he hasn't always been like this. What happened? Callie was curious to learn more. Well, first, know that Vincent at the beginning wasn't an auto mechanic. He left the region just after graduation at 18 and went to an engineering school in Paris. He worked very hard and was hired by a big American defense firm. He started to climb a few steps, and that's when he met Melissa. She was the daughter of his boss, who also worked for the company. They went out with colleagues one evening and flirted, and you can guess how the evening ended. They didn't see each other again except at work. About 2.5 months later, she came to find him and told him that she was pregnant. Vincent immediately took responsibility for ensuring his financial support and the child's education. He even offered to marry her. She wouldn't hear of it. It was out of the question for her to marry the son of a small provincial garage owner. For one night, yes, but certainly not for life. They never lived together, and then Rose was born. When the little girl was mentioned, she smiled and continued. For Vincent, it was a revelation. As you could see for yourself, he became crazy about her from the moment he held her in his arms. Melissa wasn't the maternal type. So when they were all still living in Paris, Vincent took care of her a lot. He even changed employers to be able to devote more time to his daughter. Unfortunately, sometime later, his father fell ill. He started to do a lot of back and forth between here and Paris, also trying to keep his father's garage afloat while his father was in decline. Rose wasn't yet in school, so he often took her with him. It was at this point that Melissa met someone and married him. They moved to the Côte d'Azur, and she discovered that she wanted to take care of her baby. So, she took her daughter back. My uncle died, and Vincent decided to settle here at the same time to help Mireille, take back his father's garage, and get closer to Rose. Since then, Melissa has regularly blackmailed him with the little one. At one point, she blames him for having Rose with her all the time. The next time, she doesn't want her to leave. Yesterday, I think she told him that she wanted to take her on the next vacation and that he wouldn't see her. After Callie and Hugo's first date, which would be described as successful, even if he had escaped in a hurry, they got into the habit of going out together on the weekends. He took her to restaurants, art galleries, and walks in small villages in the region. However, they remained discreet about their relationship at the hotel because they didn't want to become the favorite subject of discussion around the coffee machine. One Thursday, Callie received a call from Christelle. Miss Cadell, there's a little girl named Rose at the reception who claims to have an appointment with you. Callie smiled because she could tell from Christelle's pinched tone on the phone that she had to be looking at the kid like a curious beast, praying she wouldn't start drooling on her check-in. Tell her I'll be right there. As usual, Rose gave her a hug. Vincent was a few steps behind. Hello, Vincent, she said, approaching him. They exchanged a kiss, a French custom that she had taken a little time to adjust to. Vincent left them after a few minutes, but not without making several recommendations. Callie promised to watch over Rose. Rose and Callie went to the playground. The little girl was tireless. Callie would have been unable to say how many times she slid on the big slide. At tea time, Callie was surprised to learn that Christelle, the receptionist, told Hugo that Callie's boyfriend had visited her. Callie asked Rose to stay behind her and advised her to stay away from the swimming pool. As Callie explained to jealous Hugo that it was Vincent who came to bring Rose to their playground, she got distracted and was only alerted by Rose's sudden splash into the pool. Rose was rescued out of the pool and taken back home. Callie and Danielle were touched by how Vincent kneeled in front of his daughter, checking her body for injuries. Vincent left Rose in the living room watching cartoons when Callie invited him to talk in private. Callie apologized for her inattention, and he expressed his anger, but he didn't raise his voice. He returned to the living room, picked up his daughter, and left without saying another word. Callie felt the first tear fall on her cheek as she realized that the loss of Vincent's trust was more important to her than she would have thought. Danielle's family had organized a big picnic one evening due to the ambient weather. As usual, they invited Callie, but she declined the invitation. She hadn't spoken to Vincent since the Thursday accident, and she wasn't sure he would want her to join his family. So, Callie took a book, some cereal bars, some water, put on a pair of jeans and a pair of sneakers, and decided to explore the surrounding area. Callie crossed a few hamlets, fields of vineyards, and fruit trees along the road. After a while, she parked her car on the roadside, took her backpack, and started a walk on a small dirt road. Callie marveled at the blue sky contrasting pleasantly with the bright spring green leaves. She found, at the end of a few minutes' walk, a shady corner with a nice view, settled at the foot of a cork oak, and started reading. The thriller she had brought captivated her so much that she lost all sense of time. It was only when her body shivered that she realized that the afternoon was coming to an end. Callie picked up her things and went back towards her car. Callie started the car and went in the direction of gourds. At least what she thought was the direction of gourds. She sighed in annoyance and exhaustion when she found herself at the same crossroads that she seemed to have crossed a few minutes before. She stopped on the roadside, turned off the engine, and looked around, suddenly finding nature much less beautiful and enchanting than before. At least in town, there were road signs. She wasn't familiar with the surroundings. The night would be there in a few minutes, and she had no idea where she was. Of course, her phone's battery was dead. She put her chin on the steering wheel for a moment, closed her eyes, and tried to remember her outward journey. No luck. She couldn't remember an important feature that would help her find her way. Callie decided that it would be best to keep driving, and hopefully she will end up crossing a hamlet where there are signs. She turned the key in the ignition, but it refused to start. For several minutes, she struggled to get the usual humming sound from the engine, but unfortunately, it never happened. Callie was on the verge of tears. She was lost in the middle of nowhere. Her car had broken down, and she had no way of contacting anyone. I hope you enjoyed watching Captivating the French Hearts. For more epic stories, please subscribe and turn on post notification. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.